Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi at-Tahirin. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, the topic that we are going to talk about is about the letter of Imam Ali, peace be upon him. His letter to Malik Ashtar, when Imam Ali was going to send him and appoint him as the governor of Egypt. In this letter, Imam Ali lays down the most fundamental principles of human rights, as we have explained in our previous sessions. The previous sessions were dealing with the general introduction of Imam Ali and his general advice to his companion Malik to be pious and to break off his heart from passions and to control himself. This advice will be repeatedly coming to the rest of the letter also, because for Imam Ali, the most important criteria of a ruler is to be pious and to consider God's satisfaction over his satisfaction. That's why, piety would be repeatedly mentioned in this letter. This letter, as we read in some of the commentaries, this letter is a precise of the principles of administration and justice as dictated by Islam. From this part, Imam Ali, after his general introduction, will touch upon the very important issues. One, Imam Ali mentions that public opinions is the criteria of righteous government from wrong government. According to Imam Ali, as we will read in this letter, if you want to distinguish a right government from wrong, a righteous government from wrong government, you must see if the public opinions support the government. That means that this government is a government of virtues and righteous deed. The other issue that Imam Ali will explain in this letter that we will read later on in this session, Imam Ali said that the relationship between the government and people must be on the basis of compassion, love, and mercy. Imam Ali said that the ruler must have love and compassionate heart toward people, not to love people of his own party, not to love people of his own faith and religion. The government, the ruler, must love people regardless of their political perspective, religious beliefs, and other differences. And this is what George Dog, the Christian scholar, in his book, The Voice of Human Justice, mentioned that the Charter of Human Rights that have been laid down by thousands of scholars in the United Nations lack some of the fundamental teachings of Imam Ali, like the criteria of loving and having a compassionate heart toward people. We will talk about it later on. And the third issue that Imam Ali, in this part of the letter, will talk about is about the equality of people. Imam Ali will mention that all people are equal. People are either your brother in faith or they are similar to you in creation. And you must treat them with the humanity, regardless of their faith, their political perspective, their color, their wealth, and their nationality. And there are some other issues that we will read from the letter itself. Now, let's go to the letter and begin with the statement of Imam Ali. ثُمَّ عَلَمْ يَا مَالِكِ. O Malik, you should know. أني قد وجهتك إلى بلاد قد جرت عليها دول قبلك من عدل وجور. O Malik, you should know that I have sent you to an area where before you there were governments, both just as well as oppressive. وأن الناس ينظرون من أمورك في مثل ما كنت تنظر فيه من أمور الولاة قبلك. Now people are watching you and will examine your dealings with people the same way that you were watching the dealings of other rulers before you. وَيَقُولُونَ فِيكَ مَا كُنْتَ تَقُولُ فِيهِمْ. Now people would say about you the same thing that you were saying about the rulers before you. So it means that you were criticizing the governments and other rulers before you. Now it's time for people to judge you and to criticize you. Then Imam Ali would outline the most important things with regard to the government. He says, وَإِنَّمَا يُسْتَدَلُّ عَلَى الصَّالِحِينَ بِمَا يُجْرِي لَهُمْ عَلَى أَلْسِنِ عِبَادِهِ. You have to know that salih mean people of virtues, righteous people. Imam Ali says, the righteous people or people of virtues will be known by the reputation that God will circulate among people. If people are supporting some government, if people are admiring a government, that means that government is a good government and a righteous government. But if people are upset with the government, if public opinion does not support the government, this means that this government is not a government of virtuous people. It's not a government of righteous people. So the criteria for being righteous or not righteous, just government or oppressive government, is public opinion. If the majority of people supporting the government, that means the government is right, is just. Should someone ask a question, how is it possible that Imam Ali making public opinion as the criteria of a righteous government and righteous ruler? Is it not possible that people make mistakes? Are people infallible? For sure, people are not infallible. People may make mistakes. Indeed, Imam Ali, in a few lines below this statement, would say that people are human beings and people may make mistakes. So people are not infallible. So if people are not infallible, how is it possible that their opinions, their public opinion, would be the criteria of a good government from bad government? The answer is that according to Imam Ali, peace be upon him, people may make mistakes. But they are not mistaken in one thing. In their judgment with regard to a government, to say the government is just or oppressive. People are smart enough to realize an oppressive government from a just government. We cannot fool people by oppressing them. So public opinion must be the criteria of a right government, because people can feel if there is discrimination. People understand if a government of selfishness, if government of discrimination, if government of oppression, if government does not look after the welfare of people, if government is ignoring people's opinions, if government does not hear the voice of people, if government does not consider people as full human beings, then people will understand that that government is not a government of justice, is not a just government. That's why public opinion is the criteria of a righteous government, a right government from the wrong. That's the first point. Then Imam Malik continues to say, فَلْيَكُنْ أَحَبُّ الذَّخَائِرِ إِلَيْكَ ذَخِيرَةُ الْأَمَلِ الصَّالِحِ. Now, if you want to have good reputation among people, if you want God to circulate good reputation among people, people love you and respect you and admire you and praise your actions and your dealing and your behavior. فَلْيَكُنْ أَحَبُّ الذَّخَائِرِ إِلَيْكَ ذَخِيرَةُ الْأَمَلِ الصَّالِحِ. The first point, if you want to have the good reputation among people, you must think of righteous deeds first. فَلْيَكُنْ أَحَبُّ الذَّخَائِرِ إِلَيْكَ. The best collection for you must be the collection of good deeds. Why Imam Ali is saying this? Because usually when people come into power, the first thing that they do, they try to collect wealth. They try to collect property. They try to increase the wealth of their own selves and the wealth of their own families and the wealth of all people who have their, have closeness to them or close to them, or their friends or their parties. This was very common in the ancient time. Even today, for example, in the case of Libya, we have Gaddafi, who collected billions of dollars, and his family was one of the wealthiest family in the world, where their people, their own people, were suffering of poverty. And many of their people were, they lack the fundamental basis of life. The same is true with regard to Egypt. Hosni Mubarak collected billions of dollars where their own people were suffering, and many of their people didn't have enough food for their life. So you see, that's a problem of power. When there is power, there is accumulation of wealth at the same time. Imam Ali is advising his governor, Malik, if you want to have good reputation, that God is creating this reputation for people of virtues, you must have the best thing for you. For the best collection for you must be the collection of righteous deed, good deed. Righteous deed is to help people, to serve people, and to serve God. That must be your collection. That must be your priority. That must be your concern. فَلْيَكُنْ أَحَبُّ الذَّخَائِرِ إِلَيْكَ ذَخِيرَةُ الْأَمَلِ الصَّالِحِ فَامْلِكْ هَوَاكَ. Now, if you want to have the best collection for you be righteous deed, if you want to have good reputation among people, and good reputation before God, that God will circulate this good reputation among people, you must own your passions. You must control your passions. فَامْلُكْ هَوَاكَ means that you should own your passions. You should control your passions. There are some people who are being owned by their passions. Some people are being driven by their passions. We have a verse in the Quran says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أفرأيت من اتخذ إلهه هواه. Have you seen people who have got their desires, their passions as their God? So they worship their desire. They worship their passions. They decide on the basis of their passions. So their passions would lead them and govern them. They are being controlled by their passions. We see in many cases in the world, for example, a man who has wife and children, and he cheats on his wife, and he destroys all the family, ruin the family relationship. Children go to depression, and wife to divorce, and some other consequences that it will happen to the family. So these people are being led, they are being driven by their passions. The passion will control them. ImamAli says, if you want to be a good government, if you want to be government of virtues, you must control your passions. Famluk hawak. So restrain and control your passions, and check your heart from doing what is not lawful for you. فشح بنفسك عما لا يحل لك فإن الشح بالنفس الإنصاف منها فيما حبت أو كرهت. Check your heart from doing what is not lawful for you, because checking the heart means detaining it just halfway between what it likes and dislikes. Now, the other important point that ImamAli is outlining here with regard to the relationship between government and people. وأشعر قلبك الرحمة للرعية والمحبة لهم واللطف بهم. Habituate your heart to mercy for the subjects and to affection and kindness for them. ولا تكونن عليهم سبعا ضاريا تغتنم أكلهم. Don't stand over them like greedy beasts who feel it is enough to devour them. So here, ImamAli mentioning the relationship between the government and people. ImamAli says, you must have a loving heart. ImamAli using 3 words here. One, al-mahabba. Mahabba, the other, which means love. The other point, ImamAli says, rahmah, which means mercy. The other point says, lutf, means kindness. So ImamAli says, you must have a compassionate heart. And you must love them. And you must be kind to people. So the relationship between the ruler and people must be like the relationship between parents and the children. Like the relationship between wife and husband. Husband and wife, they love each other. They have compassionate heart. ImamAli said, you must have the same type of relationship. Not to love only people who love you. Not to love people who only support you. Not to love people who are from your party. You have to love all people. The term that ImamAli is using here, أشعر قلبك الرحمة للرعية. رعية means people. Whether people of your faith or other faith. Your political group or other political group. You must love all people equally. You must have compassionate love toward people. When you love people, their suffering would be your suffering. Their pleasure would be your pleasure. For example, ImamAli (alayhi peace be upon him, when he was in power, he was living to the lowest level of life the most basic level. Even Imam Ali didn't buy clothes for himself. He had only 2 clothes. He says, وَقَدْ اكْتَفَى إِمَامَكُمْ بِتَمْرَيْهِ. Your Imam, your leader, Ali, has only 2 clothes. One to wear, and the other to wash and wear it again. So that's the way that Imam Ali was living. The food that Imam Ali was eating is the most basic one, even lower than everyone else. He says, أَغْنَعُ مِنْ نَفْسِي بَأَنْ يُقَالَ أَمِيرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَلَا أُشْعِرُكُمْ فِي مَكَارِهِ الدَّهْرِ. How can I please myself to be called the leader of the faithful, and I don't share their hardship? If people are in hardship, if people are hungry, I must be hungry too. If they don't have enough facilities for their life, I must live the same level as my people. So the governments must not enjoy themselves. In every government, for example, we have members of parliament that they have their own salary, and every year they try to increase their salaries. And the government, the president, the prime minister, the ministers, they have their own good salaries. But according to Imam Ali, if you have a compassionate heart, how is it possible that you enjoy your life, but people are suffering from poverty? So this is very important part that George Ardagh, the Christian scholar, said the Charter of Human Rights that have been laid down later on by thousands of scholars from various parts of the world, like this part at least, the relationship between government and people to be on the basis of love, compassion, mercy, and kindness. Then Imam Ali continues to say, وَلَا تَكُونَنَّ عَلَيْهِمْ سَبْعًا دَارِيًا. Don't be like greedy beasts who is looking for an opportunity to attack the sheep and eat them. It means that the government must not be opportunist. The government must not looking for the opportunities to see when people are sleeping, when people do not understand, when people are not watching them, they take their own benefits. Like we have in our governments, sometimes they look for the benefit of themselves and interest of their own personal life and their own personal group, but people are suffering. فَلَا تَكُونَنَّ عَلَيْهِمْ سَبْعًا دَارِيًا. You are not supposed to be cruel with them. You should not be a tyrant government. You should not be an oppressive government. Because الناس صنفان, because people are of 2 categories. إما أخ لك في الدين أو نظير لك في الخلق. People are either your brother in faith. You're Muslims, they are Muslims. You're Christians, they are Christians. You're Jews, they are Jews. You're, for example, Buddhists, they are Buddhists. أو نظير لك في الخلق. Or they have no similarity to you in faith. There are no commonalities between you and them. Your faith is different. Your color is different. Your nationality is different. Your language is different. Everything is different. But there is one thing in common between you. You all are human beings. You are similar to each other with regard to humanity. You must treat each other on the basis of humanity. That's the basis of human rights that Imam Ali laid down 14 centuries ago, Remember, this was 14 centuries ago, centuries before, maybe 13 centuries before United Nations Charter of Human Rights. إما أخ لك في الدين أو نظير لك في الخلق. People are your brother in religion and faith, or like you in creation. They will commit slips and encounter mistakes. They may act wrongly, willfully, or by neglect. He says, because people are human beings, they are not infallible. They may make mistakes. So if they make mistakes, you should give them, extend to them your pardon, your forgiveness. ImamAli is not talking about personal mistakes that someone is doing with himself, the personal sins that someone is going to do in his home, in his private time. Maybe the mistakes that ImamAli is talking about is public mistakes, that sometimes is against the government. That's what the government is dealing with. ImamAli says, if people make mistakes with regard to public, with regard to your government, you must extend to them your forgiveness. You are not infallible. You make mistakes, but you expect your Lord to forgive you, because God is compassionate and merciful. You have such kind of expectation from your Lord. Now you must have the same forgiveness, the same extent of pardon to people as we expect from God to forgive you. It says, فَأَعْطِهِمْ مِنْ عَفْوِكَ وَصَفْحِكَ مِثْلَ الَّذِي تُحِبُّ وَتَرْضَىٰ أَنْ يُؤْتِيكَ اللَّهُ مِنْ عَفْوِهِ وَصَفْحِهِ. He says, extend to them your forgiveness and pardon in the same way as you would like Allah to extend His forgiveness and pardon to you, because you are over them, and your Imam is over you, while God is over him, has appointed you. He said, فَإِنَّكَ فَوْقَهُمْ, you are above the people, you have power. وَظَالِ الْأَمْرَ إِلَيْكَ فَوْقَكَ, ImamAli, who appointed you, is above you. وَاللَّهُ فَوْقَ مَنْ وَاللَّهُ, and God is above Ali himself. But this power that God has given to you is not to abuse it. This power is to help people and to serve people. Use your power to help other people. فَقَدْ اسْتَكْفَاكَ أَمْرَهُمْ وَابْتَلَاكَ بِهِمْ. Means that God has sought you to manage their affairs and has tried you through them. وَابْتَلَاكَ بِهِمْ. God has tested you through them. So people are your test. How you are dealing with people means how you are passing your test toward people. On the rest of the next part of the letter, ImamAli will talk about how a government could be in war with God if they try to oppress people. And then ImamAli will say, don't try to be in war with God, to fight Allah. If you fight people, if you oppress people, if you treat them with injustice, this means that you are fighting God. I will talk about this issue, inshallah, in the next session.